What if the reason you feel drained isn't because you're doing too much, but because you keep leaving yourself behind? What if your anxiety, your exhaustion, even that feeling of being overwhelmed isn't random, but actually your body trying to get your attention? Because no one really breaks it down in a way that feels real. Like what this actually looks like in your day-to-day life, and how to shift it without becoming a completely different person overnight. And if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, you're showing up, you're being kind, you're being there for people, but somehow you still feel empty, disconnected, or drained, this might be why. So just stay with me, because this might connect some dots. Welcome back to Blooming After Darkness. If this is your first time here, I want to thank you so much for clicking play. And if you're coming back, thank you. It truly does mean a lot. Quick pause though before we dive in. I'm not a therapist. I share educational and research-based content along with tools and perspectives that can support you. But this is not diagnosis or treatment. All right, let's talk. So I want this to feel like we're just talking, like you're sitting here with me. Maybe you've got coffee, a Coke, some snacks. Maybe you're just scrolling, but something told you to click this video. Because self-abandonment sounds like a really big word, but it's actually made up of really small moments. And most of the time, you don't even notice you're doing it. It looks like saying it's fine when something actually bothered you and you felt it in your chest, but you pushed it down. It looks like someone asking you for something and you immediately say yes, even though your first thought was, I really don't want to do that. It looks like typing out a message, deleting it, rewriting it 3 times, just to make sure you don't come off the wrong way. It looks like explaining yourself over and over, hoping someone will finally understand you. And the thing is, none of that feels like self-abandonment in the moment. It just feels like being a good person, being easy, being understanding, being someone people can count on. I used to wear that like a badge of honor, like I'm the strong one. I'm the one people come to. I can handle it. But behind the scenes, I was tired. Not just physically, like a deep kind of tired. The kind where you start feeling disconnected from yourself, like you don't even know what you need anymore. And I remember thinking, why do I feel like this when I'm doing everything right? And that's when I realized I wasn't doing everything right for me. I was doing everything right for everyone else. And that's where the back pocket theory came from, because it clicked for me one day. Like this. I was constantly aware of everyone else. Their moods, their needs, their expectations. I could read a room instantly. But when it came to me, I didn't even check in. It was like I had everyone else in my front pocket and I had put myself in my back pocket. Like, I'll get to me later. And later just kept getting pushed further and further away. And I want you to really think about this for a second. How often do you check in with yourself before you check in with everyone else? Most people don't. There's actually research that talks about this in a different way. Psychologists often refer to it as people-pleasing patterns or self-silencing. Self-silencing is when you suppress your own thoughts, feelings, or needs to maintain relationships or avoid conflict. And studies have shown that over time, this can lead to increased anxiety, emotional exhaustion, and even symptoms of depression. And this is not because you're weak, but because you're constantly overriding yourself. And your body keeps track of that. That's why you can be smiling, saying yes, showing up, and still feel anxious or drained later. Because part of you knows you left yourself out of that moment. And I think this is where a lot of people get stuck. Because they think the solution is to suddenly become this completely different person, like super assertive, always saying no, never caring what anyone thinks. And that doesn't feel realistic. So they don't change anything at all. But that's not what this is about. This is about small moments of coming back to yourself. And that's where the recall method comes in. Not as something you have to do perfectly, but as something you can gently practice. So again, recall. Awe is recognize it. This is just noticing. You're about to say yes and something in you hesitates. That hesitation, that's you. That's your signal. E is expose the truth. You ask yourself, why am I about to do this? And be honest. Maybe it's because you don't want to disappoint someone. Maybe it's because you don't want conflict. Maybe it's because you want to be liked. And that's okay to admit. C is cut the pattern. Instead of immediately responding, you pause. Even if it's just a few seconds, even if it's just, let me think about it. That pause is where everything shifts. A is ask yourself, what do I actually need right now? And this is where it can feel unfamiliar, because you're not used to asking yourself that. But your answers matter, even if it's small. L is lock it in. You honor that need in a simple way, not dramatic, not extreme, just honest. And the last, L, is leave what drains you, which sometimes just means you don't engage the same way you used to. You don't overgive, you don't overextend, you step back. And I want to add something really important here, because I know someone listening is thinking, but what if people get upset? They might. And I say that gently. Because when you change your patterns, it can feel different to people who are used to the old version of you. The one who had no boundaries, the one who said yes all the time. But that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something new. And over time, the right people will adjust. And the relationships that are healthy for you, they actually feel better. Not perfect, not effortless all the time, but better. Because you're showing up honestly, instead of showing up exhausted or performing or trying to manage everything so nothing goes wrong. You're not constantly scanning for what someone else needs before you even check in with yourself. You're not shrinking, over-explaining, or replaying every conversation in your head afterward, wondering if you did too much or not enough. And I want to slow this down for a second, because this part really matters. A lot of us were taught directly or indirectly that being a good person meant being easy, low maintenance, selfless, to the point where we disappear. So we learned to anticipate, to adjust, to carry emotional weight that was never actually ours. And then there's a term for this in psychology. It's called emotional labor. Emotional labor is the effort you put into managing other people's feelings, keeping the peace, making sure everyone is okay, softening your tone, choosing your words carefully, fixing tension before it even fully exists. And on the surface, it can look like kindness. It can look like love. It can even feel like connection. But when you're doing it all the time without including yourself in that care, it slowly turns into exhaustion. Not loud, dramatic burnout at first, but quiet burnout. The kind where you feel drained after simple conversations. The kind where you start dreading interactions you used to enjoy. The kind where you feel responsible for everyone and disconnected from yourself at the same time. And it's confusing, because you think, but I care, so why do I feel this way? It's not because you care too much. It's because you've been caring without boundaries, and boundaries aren't what a lot of people think they are. They're not about shutting people out. They're not about becoming cold or distant. They're not about saying no to everything. Boundaries are about including yourself in the equation. That's it. They're the moment you realize, I matter in this interaction too. My feelings count here too. I don't have to abandon myself to keep this connection. And that shift, it's small, but it changes everything. Because now, instead of automatically adjusting, you pause, you notice, you check in, and maybe you still choose to be kind. Maybe you still choose to support someone, but it's coming from a place of choice, not pressure, not fear, not habit. And that's what makes it sustainable. That's what makes relationships feel safe instead of draining. So this isn't about becoming a completely different person. It's not about flipping a switch and suddenly having perfect boundaries and never overthinking again. It's about remembering something you were never supposed to forget in the first place. That you exist in your own life too. Your needs, your feelings, your energy. They're not extras. They're not optional. They're part of the foundation. So the next time you feel that small hesitation, that moment where something feels just a little off, pause. Don't rush past it. Don't immediately override it or explain it away. Just notice it. Notice what your body is telling you. Notice what your mind is trying to skip over. Notice the urge to just keep things moving so nothing feels uncomfortable. Even if that's the only thing you do differently, that's a start. Because awareness is where everything begins. And most people skip this part. They go straight into fixing, reacting, or adjusting. But when you pause, you give yourself a chance to actually be included in the moment. And over time, those small pauses, they turn into different choices. Choices that feel more aligned instead of automatic. Different responses where you're not just reacting out of habit, but actually choosing what feels right for you. Different patterns where you stop repeating the same cycle that used to leave you feeling drained or confused. And eventually a different relationship with yourself. One where you trust what you feel a little more. One where you don't abandon yourself as quickly. One where you feel more grounded in who you are, instead of constantly adjusting to who you think you need to be. And that doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen one small moment at a time. And listen, if this resonated with you, I'd really love to hear from you. You can comment "I'm choosing me" or share one thing that stood out to you. Something you didn't realize before, or something that finally clicked in a way it hadn't before. Because sometimes just putting it into words makes it real. It helps you see it, acknowledge it, and start to shift it. And if you want more support with this, I do have resources on my website, bloomingafterdarkness.com, which I will link in the description. There's a mindfulness course and another course that goes deeper into anxiety, depression, self-love, habits, and sleep. So if you're ready to work through this in a more structured way, that's there for you whenever you need it. Something you can come back to, something that guides you step by step instead of trying to figure it all out on your own. And if this video helped you, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps this reach more people who might need it. And it allows me to keep creating content that's real, simple, and actually useful, not overwhelming, not complicated. Just things that you can actually apply in your own life. Because you're not behind. You didn't mess anything up. You're not too late to figure this out. No matter how long you've been feeling this way, you're just learning how to come back to yourself, learning how to listen to yourself, learning how to include yourself, and that is a powerful place to be. So I'm really glad you're here, and I will see you in the next video.